there was a lot of stuff that did go on while I was away. And yesterday, I get back home, I'm getting situated. And what happens? We get a big deal with Jared Goff signing an extension with the Detroit Lions, which leads me to what's on Michael's mind today, because it does pertain to that deal and the Lions in particular.
Well, one of the things you always worry about as a general manager when you pay players, and certainly they need to be rewarded, is how does that affect the locker room? Right. And last year when the Giants paid Daniel Jones, I said, not a good move, because Daniel wasn't the reason they won, and they overlooked Barkley and they paid Jones, and that creates problems in the locker room. So you always wonder, George Young, the former general manager of the New York Football Giants, had a great saying, the hungry soldier is the best soldier. And you always want that, right? And that's the same thing with employees too. You don't want everybody to feel contentment, which is one of the virtues of the Patriots, that when Robert Kraft was coaching them over those 24 years, that he was able to develop the lack of contentment within his organization. Marvelous that he could do that from the owner's chair. But anyway, so my point here is you worry about that. You worry about the level of competition because you become the hunted one. I remember a conversation someone talked about to Sean McVay after he won the Super Bowl, and the person said to him, he said, Sean, this is going to be the hardest year of your life, the next year. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's going to be the hard, because everybody's coming for you. Everybody studied your tape. It's their Super Bowl. And I think it's a little bit for Detroit too. But I think with Campbell as the leader, I think Goff is a guy who's been here before. I think they have a team that isn't content. And I think that's a good thing. I think they got to offset the fact that people are coming for them. And the division is good. I think Green Bay's better, no question. And I think the NFC will be coming for them as well. So, look, it's good to get players played. We know Goff's not the second best player in the league, but unfortunately, or fortunately for Goff, that's the cost of doing business.
And I do have a sidebar that I want to go down on that, but I'll get to it in a moment, because to stick with the Lions portion of this and still being hungry, as you called it, like you got ripped last year for your comments on the New York Football Giants, right? And talking about the Daniel Jones contract and Saquon Barkley holding out and the potential disease of me. Brian Daboll is coach of the year and the Giants have this awesome season. And then you questioned, okay, what is that going to look like going into this season? Well, they end up being a 6-win team, and you were right on all counts. And then Daniel Jones has the injury that he has, yada, yada, yada. So it is a very real fear. And you have high expectations, and people are gunning for you now. It's different.
Yeah, and people study you, right? You're no longer the Lions. One of the things we're going to see at the schedule, Stormy, is and I read Bill Adie's newsletter. Again, we urge everybody to sign up. Use the code Lombardi to do that, because you get all this valuable information. And they were talking about, I think it was Steve Fensick was talking about the schedule coming out and what he looks for as a professional gambler. What I look for as somebody who's been in the league is will the team, when they're playing an uncommon opponent, will they have enough time to prepare for them, or are they going to do a good enough job in the offseason preparing for them? For example, right? If you haven't played in Seattle for a lot of years, now you're going there, you don't know what McDonald's going to do on defense. You're not sure what Ryan Grubb's going to look like on offense, although you'll get tape, but you'll just be superficially gaining the tape. You have to prepare for the uncommon opponent in May and June, July in training camp. And if you don't do that, that week becomes very challenging for you. And then that's when you lose to a team you probably shouldn't have lost to, because you don't know them. You don't have a feel for them. You don't know how they call the game. When you're Cleveland, you go play Pittsburgh, you know who you're dealing with, right? When you're Cleveland, you go play Baltimore, you know it. But now you're Cleveland and you're going out to play San Francisco, different ballgame, right? And so that becomes a factor. And I think you've got to really look at the schedule. And for Detroit, they are going to be a team that's studied all offseason. And people are going to look for ways to exploit their defense and ways to take advantage of their offense.
12 wins a season ago, make it all the way to the NFC title game, win total set at 2.5, and they are the second shortest shot in the NFC behind only the 49ers as well. To follow up on that other point you made, when it comes to the price tag and Jared Goff's average annual value looking around $53 million right now, What does this mean for some other quarterbacks? Thinking about Tua Tagovailoa, who's obviously going to get a new deal here soon. Dak Prescott. You look at, Josh Allen is going to need a new deal at some point in the near future. What does this do for that? Because you look at that guy is getting paid $53 million. Well, my initial asking price is changing now.
Well, see, here's what the leagues aren't allowed to collude with. What are you going to pay your guy? What are you going to pay our guy? But the agents talk to one another. And so Tua's agent probably had a really good sense because he's represented. Goff is represented by the Tollner family, Ryan and Brett Tollner, right, who used to work for Lee Steinberg. And Steinberg represents Tua. And so they know. And so I'm sure Lee probably knew this deal was coming. And so he backs off. He walks away. Okay, here it is. They paid Goff 53. My guy's better than Goff. I want 55. Well, wait a minute. We thought we were in the 45. No. Now we're here. See, and so that you just keep using the ladder, and they know when a deal's coming or when it's getting closer. And so they back off of a deal. If you're in the middle of a negotiation and you feel like you're getting somewhere and all of a sudden the agent goes dark on you, you know he knows another deal's coming that's going to hurt your deal because he don't want to talk to you anymore. He wants to avoid it. He's in four-corner offense. And so I think this Goff deal certainly impacts it. Now, what do they say to that? Well, Goff's more experienced. He's been to a Super Bowl. You can discredit it. But then Lee's going to come back and say, well, yeah, he's eventually going to get you there, so he has to be rewarded for it. It becomes the ladder, and if you climb the ladder, the numbers are just going to keep going up.
Which this is a conversation for another day, but presents an interesting situation for the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones, who's kind of just been sitting back and waiting to figure out how to put these deals together. They're just going to get more and more expensive as we go.